Hello techies, welcome to the day 10 of my 100 days coding challenge, and today I'll be looking into 3 control structures in JavaScript, which is the if-else statement, switch statement, and break. We are going to be seeing other statements as we continue this challenge, but for today I'll just be talking about those 3. So let's go to our VS Code. The first I'm talking about is the if-else statement. The if-else statement and the switch statement are both conditional statements because they make the interpreter to execute or skip statement depending on the value of an expression. What this simply means is that conditional statements execute or skip other statements depending on the value of a specified expression. These statements are the decision point of your code. So if the other statement does not meet the condition of the conditional statement, JavaScript interpreter skips those ones and executes the one that meets up with the condition. So I'm going to give an example here. First of all, this is the syntax for if-else statements. First, you type if, then the parentheses, then the braces or the curly brackets. So this is the syntax for if-else statements. We're going to go through some examples, or rather one example. And of course, I'm going to build something in the UI for proper understanding to illustrate what we have been understanding. I'm going to declare a variable and I'll name that variable let me use colors. Let me give this fifth color. This will be storing my value. So I'll assign the value to it, a color. I'll say blue, putting it in a string. And I want to be able to tell a customer that the color they want me to deliver, I do not have it or I have it, if it's available or not. So that's the idea behind this example. Now I'm going to use the if-else statement. I'll say if, then the bracket holding the conditions. The parentheses will be holding the condition. Remember in our last class we talked about operators or equal to. So I'll just say if color is equal to blue, that if the user asks for blue. The next thing is to put my curly bracket or braces, anyone you choose to call it. Then I want to notify the user that this color is not available. To see this on the console, I have to put it on console.log parentheses, then double quotes. This is where I write this color is not available. Okay, I want to be more specific, so I'll change this to blue. I'll say blue is not available. So the customer will know that blue is not available. Maybe the customer would like to go for another color, like yellow. Maybe yellow will be available. So you see this on the console, it says that blue is not available. Another interesting thing about the if-else statement, you can make as many conditions as you want. If you don't want to use the multiple comparison that we discussed, using the or and also the is not, you can use the else if to make other comparisons. Now what if my user puts in yellow and I don't want to use the other multiple comparison, the and or? I can simply say green. So when my user puts in green, you see that green is available or green is not available. Okay, I'll just copy this and paste it here to be fast. Then I'll change this to green. But because our variable is still storing blue, this will still give us blue color is not available until our user puts in green. Like I said, one of the interesting things about the if-else statement that using the else if, you can give more conditions, as many conditions as you want. And I'm just going to give this yellow just in case our customer needs yellow. Remember that you can use other operators to give your conditions. You can say if 12 or whatever my variable is storing is lesser than what my user wants, then you give your conditions. But I'm just going to give this as an example because I feel this is easier to understand. So everything I'm saying so far is that if my user meets all these conditions, if my user wants blue, execute this. If my user wants green, execute this. If my user wants yellow, execute this. Else, maybe she doesn't want anything, then you can just execute this. You can put anything on the console. I'm just putting anything on the console, but just understand the idea. The idea is that if my users meet meet these conditions, then everything in my custom.log, each of them should be executed based on the user's wants or needs. So the last else I put there is not mandatory. You can decide to not put that and your codes will still run effectively. Or let me just assume that the user puts colors that I do not even know or I have not seen before. Then I could just say we do not have this color, or say I do not have this color. All of these are plenty of codes. That is one of the advantage of the multiple comparison. It allows you to compare so many things, maybe even in a single line or so. But for the sake of understanding, we are doing this. Now let's say the user puts in yellow. Let's change the value to yellow. You see that it will change to yellow color is not available. Likewise, if you change to any other colors, anything the user puts in is either available or not available according to my marketing strategy. Like I said, these are plenty of codes. We could do a multiple comparison just using the or to do another comparison to give another condition. Fill equal to green. Then I could just come here and say this color is not available or this color is available to avoid plenty of codes. Now I'm just going to change this from blue, say this color is not available. So this is what my user will see if my user wants blue or green. It is not available. So that is it for multiple comparison. Also, that's one of the advantages. I will just comment this out and give an example of the switch statement. The switch statement is more straightforward than the if-else statement. You do not compare, rather you just give an expression. The syntax or the keyword is followed by an expression in parentheses and a block of code in curly braces. So I'm going to be doing exactly what I did in the if-else statement, but this time I'm using the switch statement. So the first thing we are going to do is to call the keyword. Write the keyword switch, then a parenthesis. The parenthesis will be holding the expression. Remember that the expression is equivalent to the value that it is holding. So it means that when switch execute, it computes the value of the expression and then look for a case label whose expression evaluates to the same value. And when it finds one, it will start executing the block of code that is being labeled by the case. And if it does not find a case with a matching value, it looks for a statement labeled default. If there is no default label, the switch statement keeps the block of codes together. I know it is very confusing to understand and even more confusing to explain, but with this example, I know you understand better. The next thing we see is how to make a case. We put the case, then we put a value that the variable is holding, which means that if a customer needs green, then we should be able to say that green is available. This is same thing I did when I said if fave is equal to blue, that is if the fave color is holding green. Then now we say console.log this to the customer. This is the notification we are giving to the customer. Now I'm just going to console.log what the user will see. This color is not available. My colors are not always available. So as you can see, this is the same thing we did in the if-else statement, and you agree with me that this code is shorter than what we did in the if-else statement. All we have to do is put the expression. The expression is what holds the value. We'll make a case, then put the value. Now, immediately after my console.log, you can see a semicolon there. That colon is different from the one I used in labeling my case. After the case, the value, which is green. Then you see that is a colon, but after the console.log, there's a semicolon there, and it is different. The one after the console.log is used to end the case. So JavaScript understands that there is an ended there. That's an end of case there. Now there's a problem here. My user wants green, but the response is that of yellow and green. So the break, that's where the break comes in. The break keyword simply tells JavaScript to break out of the switch statement and continue with the statement that follows it. But the case clause that you see before the value in a switch statement specify only the starting point of the desired code. They do not specify any ending point. But if my customer wants yellow, it will notify the customer that the color is available. Rather, let me just change this to green and yellow. Remember that the expression is holding the variable and the variable is storing the value. So whatever value that the variable is storing is what the JavaScript is going to execute. Right now, we have said that if a user wants yellow, then it should execute yellow is available. What JavaScript understands by this expression is that if wave color is equal to yellow, that if wave color is equal to any value that it is holding, and because it is storing yellow as its value, then JavaScript will execute what is on the console.log. Yellow is available. There is also the default. After JavaScript goes through all these codes and does not get a similar value of what the user wants, then it just executes the default. Whatever the default is storing, just execute it. But I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to use HTML and CSS to build something real quick in the web browser. I just did a simple party age checker to check the people that can come for a party. If they are lesser than 18, they cannot come, just 18 and above. And yes, I created 3 containers, and each of the container has an ID that I'll be using to make the container dynamic after giving it a function in JavaScript. So I'm going to go back to my JavaScript, comment this out, then call the 3 containers by their ID. The first container is the label container. I gave it an ID of paycheck. So I'm going to call it in JavaScript and store it in a variable I'll call label. While the second container is the input field, I gave it a value of 32 and also I gave it an ID called BBT. So I'll just copy and paste this twice to make it easier. So BBT. Then the last container is the submit container. The submit container, I called it btn. So I'll save it in a variable I call button. And that is it. Just change this to btn. The next thing I'll do is to add an event listener to the button, then the click method, then a function. What this simply means is that the button should listen to any time it is being clicked. Then I'll give it a function that when it is being clicked and the value that the user entered meets my conditions, then it should notify the user if the user can come to the party or not. So that's what I'm doing here. I have added the event list now, giving it a click method, then the function. The next thing I want to do is to call the input value. I gave it a value of 35. So I'll just say input.value. Input.value. I'll store this in a variable. I'll just call it number. Or maybe I should call it age. Let me call it number. I'll call it number. So the value is being stored in number. Then I'll use the if else statement, my condition, if number is greater than 10. So I want to assume that 10 is the minimum age for the party. Now I'll call the variable that is storing the container that will be notifying my users. And that value, I stored it in label. I call the variable label. Now I'll say label.inner text equal to, then in a quotation I'll say you are eligible to attend. Now if the value that my user entered is greater than 10, they can attend this party. Okay, I'm going to change this to 18. So only users that are above 18 can attend this party. Next thing I'll do is I'll say else, that's if they are not above 18. If they are less than 18, I'll come here again and say label.inner text equals to sorry, you cannot attend this party. So let's go to our web page. You see that there is 35 here and it's saying that you're eligible to attend. If I come here and change this to 17, it say oops, you cannot attend this party. So if you are not above 18, you cannot attend this party. So let me come here and say if the input value is greater than 18 or equal to 18, see, so even 18 years can attend this party. 18 can attend this party. But if I remove the equal to, you see 18 cannot attend this party. So it's greater than or equal to 18, you can attend this party. And yes, you can either do multiple comparison or you add other conditions using the else if. This is all for today. Bye.